Oh, wow. Okay. I just saw a pop up about moderators. I think that's neat. That being said, shout out to all 144 of my subscribers. I appreciate people subscribing to the channel. This channel just started out as just like, I don't know, a vlog. Um, and it's still kind of that. I've been spitballing a little bit. I've been trying different things. And I've even veered off. I tried to do the whole reacting to pop culture. I've tried doing the. I'm really intrigued by the news, so a lot of times I would do live covering like the news. But eh, I kind of like getting on here and just kind of chatting with y'all. And I see the time is 10 o'clock Eastern over here, so it's late. It's crazy when I catch people during the day though. Um, but y'all know how I do at night. Make sure that the kiddos are asleep, and they usually wake up in the middle of the night. So, and yeah, times when I'm up, I'm just I'm just on here, right? Um, but yeah, so my eyelash got in my eye. Anyway, um, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to get on here a little bit, and just kind of, I guess, talk about being 5 years in. Just celebrated 5 years. Marriage is one of the reasons why I've been like out of here a little bit. Um, had a great time. Had a great time, and I don't know. It's been wild. Like I've been listening to a lot of media about being married. There's this one stand-up comedian that talked about the 5 year itch in marriage. God, I can't remember his name. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. I hate that I'm forgetting this guy's name. But anyway, I might just make a short video on him. But he was saying about how it's easy to be married for like your first years, like that honeymoon phase. Your second year is like, yeah, we this is us, and then your third, you start really getting into the nitty gritty of things. Fourth year, you're getting the hang of it. Shout out to Game Player 2025. Uh, Sorry if I butchered your name. Gamer Player. Okay. Um, and then he was like, but that fifth year itch, that's when your marriage is really put to the test, right? And he was doing his whole stand-up bit about his marriage or whatever, and how on that fifth year, he and his wife had a great big falling out. And I mean, between year 5 and 6, they were actually considering divorce. And I don't know. I think that's interesting because I'm not going to sit here and say all marriages are the same, because they're not. I do kind of understand that 5 year itch thing, but I think another thing to consider in what this comedian was talking about was the fact that he was. A lot of people talk about marrying young, marrying fresh out of high school, marrying while they're in college, or marrying before they even know what they want their life to be about. They tie themselves to somebody thinking that this is the person that they want to be with, right? Cool. That 5 year itch thing that he was talking about, I feel like it's a little different for people who are more mature. Um, Shout out to It's Skylar. He said, I don't think I want to. What do you mean you don't want to do what? What? Get married? I don't know. So anyhow, and then I do try to pay mind to the chat while I'm doing this too. And I'm so sorry if I butcher anybody's name. But anyway, for me, it wasn't a it wasn't a 5 year itch. It was more like a 3 year itch. And like, God, that sounds terrible out of context. But I hate when people be like, "Oh, it was love at first sight" or whatever. I hate when people do that because, in my opinion, you don't really know who you're dealing with when you're dating or whatever. You only know what they portray. You only know what that person presents. So to be like, oh, I think love is a very loaded word, right? Like a lot of people, they throw words like love, care, and friendship around. They do that, right? Um, for me, I really took my time with it because I felt like marriage is a permanent thing. Um, so I was very very careful with it. First year, it's like okay, you're figuring out who you with. I'm gonna say this too: being dating is completely different from being married. Like I know there are a lot of people who are like in long-term relationships and they're like, "Oh, I've been together with this person for X amount of time. It's the same as being married." It is not. It is not. Being married, you have to constantly deal with the person that you're married to. In everything that you do, like even in your documents, this person is in your money, this person is in your taxes, this person is your auto insurance, everything. This person, y'all become one. So the first year it was easy, at the time, we did it normal. We didn't have any kids or anything. So that was easy. It was just me and him, just boom, whatever. Both of us had pretty good jobs. And it was simple. We didn't really talk about having kids. Well, we didn't get serious about having kids until like probably like our second year in. And we didn't have much luck with having kids. So we actually was giving up about year 3. We were like, okay, we're just not gonna have kids. But then now, you know, um, I talk a long time, Gamer 2025, I'll be around. So basically I'm just running down this whole 5-year marriage thing. Um, I really feel like, in my opinion, I think 7 years of marriage is more of a milestone, but these days some people they don't even last 6 months being married, right? So I'm thinking, okay, 5 years, this is pretty cool. My husband and I have been together for 8 years, going on 8 years. Yeah, it'd be 8 years in November, so it'd be nearly 10 years. But I have to say, those 3 years, animation styles, hello. Um, those 3 years, they were cool. 2.5 years that we were dating, but I'm telling you, man, it's like when you get to that, when you get them paper signed, like it just goes on from there, right? It never stops. And you hear a lot of people say you should be married before you have kids. I am so serious about that. I lean on that point so much. Um, yes, please be married before you have kids. I cannot say that enough. Because if you can't stomach the idea of being married to a person, it is pure hell if you got kids with them. And I'm not saying that like it's, I don't know how to make that statement more heavy because right now, we were blessed enough to have our 2 children. Um, but anyway, let's step back. Dating, that was fun. It's always fun when you got your taxes, he got his taxes. Always fun when you're separate. When you know that, hey, there could be a day when the straw breaks the camel's back. You could go about your business anytime. That's easy. you know. Now there are people who get invested, like, or they have investments. Like I've had friends that bought homes with their long-term partner, um, or classic. A lot of people, they'll help each other buy a car. Somebody will co-sign their boyfriend or their girlfriend, and that's that. It's just a car. But once you get married, and then especially for women, like our name change, or some of us, our name doesn't change, right? That's a whole controversy, right? So I remember we first got married, I had to do all this paperwork. And then there was sometimes when I couldn't even log in to some of my accounts and stuff like that because my names didn't match, things like that. there are all these different changes that women go through. And I understood immediately why women didn't change their names, because I had to jump through so many hoops. You already have to report here in the States. After you get married, you have to like report that to, who do I have to talk to? Well, no, it was because I changed my name. I think I had to talk to like the Social Security office. I was just like eyes deep in like paperwork. So it became like administrative immediately. Just had to fill out all this stuff, make all these phone calls. Like I said, for my car note at the time, I had to go change my name on that. Had to change just everything, like my bills. And then we were combining all of our assets. And then we were combining all our liabilities. So what I'm saying is all the good things that we had going on, it's like now it's 50-50. Nothing that I've ever earned was 100% mine anymore. Like just like that after getting married. Same thing with my husband. Everything that he had. And this is the thing that I have to ask people, when they get into these serious, emotionally driven relationships, are you willing to give up 50% of what you have to the person that you are romantically involved with? Because that's what marriage is, right? Going back to this idea of marrying before you carry, before you have kids. Your child is going to have 50% your DNA, 50% your spouse's DNA, right? Given that it's a traditional man, woman, whatever. They are walking 50-50, right? Now, the beautiful thing about my marriage is that we have a son and we have a daughter. So it's like we get to see the combination of our son being like the masculine version of our 50-50, our daughter is like the feminine version of our 50-50. And it's just like, it makes sense on why so many people, I would say people in power, whether it be government or just a overbearing parent, why they're so big on other people, whether it be their own kids or somebody who might not particularly like you in society. They don't want you to have kids. Well, wait, nobody has a problem with anybody having kids. Scratch that. I understand why society is so anti-marriage. What I'm seeing is that when you're married, you have things that belong to you. You have more ownership. You have more control over your life. This is what I mean. Remember how I talked about that whole 50-50 thing, right? You have something, the person that you're married to has something, and y'all are coming together. So then anytime I have an issue, it's not just me. People also have to consider my husband. Not only that, but people have to also be mindful that we are backed by the state. So you're not just, a lot of times people talk about the negative side about being married. A lot of times people talk about how, marriage is a piece of paper, or it's a legal document, or, it's a contract. So much deeper than that. Like, our union is sanctioned by the state. It's kind of wordy and well, okay. This is what I mean. If me and Josh would have just continued dating, it just would have been just me and him. Nobody's invested in it. It's just me and him. And then as far as who's winning, it's all the people that we're spending money with. So if we're single, Josh is spending money over here, I am spending money over there. And whoever we're spending our money with, the two of us come together and we deal with whatever it is we spent money on, whether it was a gain or a loss. But here's the problem with being single. If we lose something, it doesn't matter because we're not backed by anything. So if we lost, let's say if Josh went to go buy a car and the car is complete trash. Well, you're talking about the auto dealer, versus him. On the flip side, If they mess with somebody's husband, okay, now he belongs to a family. Now you're looking at the human aspect. Now you're looking at the fact that this man is buying a car so he can provide transportation for his wife, right? This is before children even come into the picture. You're dealing with a man who's providing for his wife. Same with me. If I can't tell you how many times I've gotten out of situations because I'd be like, you know what? I don't go back and forth. I'll just be like, let me just give my husband a call, or let me just talk to my husband about it. When it comes to finances and stuff like that, conversation smooths right out. Oh no, Mrs. Bell, you don't have to go calling him. You don't have to, we're gonna work something out. Why? Because you're dealing with somebody who belongs to a family. I'm not just anybody. I'm just, you know what I mean? My husband, he's just not anybody. And I think that's the beauty of, I think that's what people lose, is that marriage is so much deeper than what so many people who don't have it personify it as, because it provides protection for both people. And it also makes you think the person that you are committing year over year to, you have protections within this contract, and you are backed. Like I said before, you are backed by the state. People regard you a certain way. Needless to say, if you have a corporate job or like a government job or anything else, being married takes you a long way. Both of our careers, when we got married, it was just easier. Like, instantly we were relatable to all of our colleagues and coworkers and stuff like that. And that's another thing I'm starting to realize after 5 years. We're missing, in general, we're missing the social aspect, which is depriving us of our humanity. That's very wordy. This is what I'm saying. When two people are married, they are a family unit. The minimum number in a family is two, a husband and a wife. Okay, I'm staying away from the non-traditional because I know gender can go everywhere. But just for the sake of what I know, husband and wife, family of two. Okay. When two people are single, they're just like consumers in society. They're 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 not they're not recognized. And in many ways they're not respected. So everybody is just looking for that person who's single with no kids to consume. And that's it. Like, this reminds me of that conversation of DINK, DINK, dual income, no kids, these people. And when Josh and I, we tried for children and we were unsuccessful for the first 2 years of our marriage, we were like, okay, cool. We'll just be a DINK, dual income, no kids. And we were just working and we were just making money. And I don't know, over time, this is us personally. I know it's different for everybody, but it just felt like we were just stacking money, stacking money, stacking money. But what was the value of that money like after we're dead and gone? So we were like, okay, we can either take all this money that we're accruing and we can donate it to a charity, or we can adopt, right? And then just have that child, be, I guess, a trustee over whatever we built up over time. I don't know. We were still figuring it out. By the time we were done fleshing out the plan, we found out about our son. So we had our son, and then shortly after we had our son, we had our daughter. So it was like, okay, so now we don't have to worry about where we're going to put who's going to have our inheritance, who's going to get the inheritance. We don't have to think about that anymore, right? But then here was something that we did not prepare for at all. Since we decided to not worry about kids anymore, we never thought about like child proofing. Like, we never thought about looking at schools, things like that you have to think about with having kids. And then the little nitpicky things like the doctor's appointments, how these hospitals here in the States, they profit so much on pumping your kids full of vaccines. Now, I know that's also a controversial topic. And then, by some standards, some may see me as an anti-vaxxer. But there are some of these vaccines that cause more risk and more harm than they help. That's a whole other conversation. But we started realizing very quickly that we have to be proactive about not just our health. It was easy for us because, we were young and, we still are relatively young, able-bodied. We had decent careers. We were bringing in nice income, everything. But then I was challenged with a lot of how do you move as a first I was adjusting to being a wife because like I said, my name changed, right? I decided to do that. And then after the name change, we adjusted to that. Now it's like I had to make some real serious career decisions. And I mean, we were trying to put as much money up as we possibly could, right? And we never fathomed the idea of having kids, especially biological ones, because we were unsuccessful for years, right? So, we're grateful that we have our children, very grateful for that. So now it's like, okay, our marriage, it turned into a whole different animal because it was like a power couple thing. It was like, you're making money, he's making money. Okay, cool. But then it turned into, he's making money. You got to take care of this kid. And it's like, okay, he's, the whole time that I was pregnant with our son, he just kept talking about, I have no experience with kids. I don't know nothing about kids. I don't know how to change diapers. I don't know how to do this and that. For me, it wasn't a big deal. I grew up in a huge family. I've helped raise kids. It was nothing to me. I didn't care. We had our son. It was pretty easy. That labor was so easy with my son. It was ridiculously easy. Like I didn't even have to use an epidural. Nothing. Daughter, whole other case. I didn't use an epidural with her either, but it was rough. Anyway, there was so many changes that I went through as a wife that my husband just skipped out on because he never had to change his name. He never had to worry about no name change. He never had to worry about no paperwork. Reputation. Oh my God. Reputation is a lot with wives. Who you are, how you carry yourself, how you dress, how people react to you. Um, you know, and it was so rough for me because I've always worked in like male dominated fields. And what that basically means is most jobs that men will work, because I always love money. I love spending money. I am not one of these type of women that look for a man to buy me stuff. I want to go buy my own stuff. I never been on that strong independent kick, but I was the type of person that if I ever wanted something, I want to go in the store and just point, and that's it. Like, so if that meant that I had to join the military to get that kind of money, that's what I did. If that meant that I had to, work in sales and get that commission to make that money, that's what I did. When I got tired of cold calling and door-to-door sales, I went into truck driving. I was like, listen, I'm not gonna keep walking around these neighborhoods burning gas in my car. I got a CDL in my back pocket, and I don't want to sit in one place. I want to travel. Me and Josh, we were dating. He had his CDL. I was like, let's go, let's do it. Like, let's just get out there. Let's roll. Let's make this money. So, I've always been that way. And then it helped a lot that Josh has the type of mind that he has to where he's like, I want to get this money. Like, that's how he was. Like, throughout our process of being together, like from the day that we were talking, it felt like an interview. It was like, he told me straight up, day one, listen, I've dated quite a few girls. Don't ask about nobody, none of that. That ain't none of your business. This is what I want to make sure you're interested in, and he just laid out everything. Like, when we were dating, he was like, look, I'm trying to be married, trying to build a life. What are you doing? And I was like, cool, like I appreciate it. That's straight up. Easy. Easy when you put it in words, right? When we were dating, I felt like, I'm not dealing with somebody where I gotta worry about if he in the streets or whatever. I'm too busy for that. I need somebody who's busy too. We're both making money. We're doing things well. We get married. Everything seemed like it makes sense. Cool. The kid comes into the picture. Pregnancy is wild, to say the least. Pregnancy is a very, very wild experience. Um, to feel a person developing in your body is the words leave me just thinking about the experience. It's quite the experience. Um, and really the psychology of it all. Like, everybody talks about a woman's physique when she has children. Um, but nobody talks about like what a woman goes through mentally. And even my husband, as much as he cared about me, as much as I'm the center of his universe, he was missing it. Like, first of all, we kind of haphazardly found out about the pregnancy, like probably like 4 or 5 months in, because we just ruled it out. We just ruled out that we could ever have kids. We tried for years, couldn't have it. And by the time we learned about our son, he was a viable pregnancy, you know, um, you know, upon going to the appointment, they were like, "Hey, do you want to know the gender?" And we're like, "Gender of what?" um, I went through so many changes just just going through that. And that was in what, 2022. Our kids are back to back, 1 and 2 year old. And I was going through all these psychological changes, all these physiological changes without even knowing what was going on. So while he's out working, I'm working too, but my productivity was going down. Like, as a truck driver, everybody thinks, "Oh, you just steer a wheel all day. Oh, you drive a big rig and that's what you do." No, there's so much politics that go into truck driving. So much politics. The number one thing about being a truck driver is when they see you driving that truck, they just see a moneymaker on wheels. You're operating this giant truck, and people minimize what you do for a living as, "Oh, all you do is steer a wheel all day," right? And so you're constantly dealing with people. And here's one of your main big fish, DOT. And I don't mean to make this like a truck driving video, but as a truck driver, like state troopers, police, highway patrol, DOT, these are the guys that are just looking and itching for you. You don't even have to do anything wrong. All you have to do is approach them and not have confidence. I can't tell you how many times I've been doing stuff like straight up wrong. My paperwork was off or something like that. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I'm not on the road anymore. I'm good. And I just talk like I got some sense, and I have good hygiene, and I can pass a drug test on the spot. That is rare for truck drivers. And because of that, or even like I said, having a clean truck, that's gotten me out of so many tickets. I've been pulled over and they didn't even run my license, which is not okay. But it goes to show that if you carry yourself in a respectful manner, you'll be all right for the most part. So anyway, going from looking for DOT to be my culprit while I'm trying to make money to I can't really make no money because I'm growing a person. And my husband, it didn't quite hit him. It didn't hit him. So it was like the whole time I'm driving a truck, he's driving a truck. Now we started out teaming, but then COVID happened and all that good stuff, bad stuff. And then now we're in separate trucks. We drive for another company where we're home every night. We drive separate trucks, and I'm just not doing well. Found out about the pregnancy. The job was making my workload lighter, but this goes to show another thing too. Women in the workforce. A lot of times women are like, they take medications to get through the day, whether it be like, ibuprofen, like whether it be like Midol or like something for their cramps or whatever, their feminine hygiene, feminine products. or straight up like birth control. You know, it's like women have little, like even as a female truck driver, there'll be other female truck drivers and they will be like, they'll ask me, hey man, how many miles you run this week? I tell them, a couple thousand miles. Oh my God, you did a couple thousand. How'd you do that? You running like a man. Now me, I just eat healthy. That's my hack. Like, and I drink a lot of water, right? And I avoid stress. That was my hack. But a lot of times women, like, they would, they would take medications, they would have like you know, it's not uncommon to have like energy drinks, 5 hour energy, thing like that. But the thing about those energy drinks and stuff for women, it can be really, really hard on our bodies on top of the stress of the work. So we're constantly trying to get hacks from each other. Even little tips like, hey, what truck stop do you stop at that's not nasty? you know? Um, so here I was now, I'm pregnant as all get out. And I'm like, yo, I gotta stop driving a truck. I cannot physically keep doing this, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. First thing I do, I go to my husband, I say, listen, this baby is heavy. I'm like, at this point, I think I'm probably like 5 months. And I even went part-time with the job. It was still too much. So I'm like, listen, it's too much, you know? And then a part of me was mad because I was like, I have a husband. You got a baby on the way. You know how hard it was for us to have a baby. Why didn't you just go, hey, baby, you pregnant. Don't do nothing. I got the money. Why didn't you just do that? Just do it naturally. Like, ain't you a man? Like, that's that's what I was thinking. But what I had to learn was this is an experience for him too. So it's like you don't go 5 years, from us dating to us now being married for a couple years, going on 4 years, excuse me. Yeah, 4 years we've been together or whatever. Throughout our relationship, it's been he making money, I'm making money. We break in the bank. We set financial goals. We exceed, we exceed, we exceed. It's just me and him. And we go from we doing this to I can't do it. It's too much. The stress is too much. The hours are too much. The heavy lifting is too much. Like, yeah, I served in the military. I did them push-ups. I ran those miles. I did those pull-ups, you know. But man, the number one thing about being pregnant, your abdominal muscles don't do nothing. I mean, you got no core. Your whole core is gone, right? So it's like getting in and out of the truck. I gotta use like all upper body strength and my legs. I worked one of those jobs where I had to have steel toe boots. Before I got pregnant, it was a little much, but I didn't care about the physical demand because I always had this phobia of getting fat. I still have that phobia. So my thing was, it's a lot of physical stress, but I know that I don't have to deal with, not taking care of my physical health. I'm very insecure about my image as it is. So I just feel like my weight is one of those things that I can control, right? Okay, cool. Getting in and out of the truck, all that, the physical demand of the job, I'm cool with that. So I'm like, but now I can't meet the demand of the job. And in many ways, as a truck driver, as you can imagine, that is dangerous. When you can't lift things in time, when you can't steer the wheel, when you can't, crank there's this thing, the crankshaft for your landing gear, when you can't pull it up and down, and there were some women that was telling me about, I saw some pregnant truck drivers on the road and they were telling me, hey, they would give me tips on different medications you could take that should be safe for the baby. Or they would tell me, hey, you need to go and see your OBGYN. They could probably hook you up with something that's going to help you with your energy boost, and I'm sitting here like, it gets to a point as a human being, and especially as a woman, where your life is like a hard drive. And when you keep adding stuff to it, you're going to mess around and exceed the space of that said hard drive. So that was like my reality check. I have to say, I was a pretty rebellious wife at first because I think that a lot of times people have expectations when they're dating, and then they think after they get married, whatever their vision of marriage is just going to become. And that was the deal for my husband because, for me too, like I think every woman think of their husband as like, oh, you're gonna be a protector, you're gonna be a provider because we're a family now and you gotta do this, right? And then on the flip side, I know every man's different, I know every woman's different, but for my husband, it just the way that I saw the way he interpreted marriage would be, he saw it as now everything's on him. So in my mind, I was going, okay, we're married, which means that we need to be more careful about how we do things because now we directly impact each other. So, like, if you make financial decisions or any decision, 50% of your yes is me. So, if you make financial plans or even just social plans with people, I'm endorsing everything. So, please think twice because it's two people involved, not one. That's how I was thinking. How he was thinking was, as the man of the house, everything he does, everything he says, everything's on him. And everything that I do and everything that I say is on him. So the whole time he's like, I got to do everything right. I got to do everything perfect. I got to take care of everything. Everybody who's around needs to be okay at all times. This was before we had kids, by the way. There were a lot of people that picked at that. Family, friends, coworkers. When you're married, people seem to pick at your union. It's like they want to pick it apart so they can benefit from it. It's the craziest thing. It's like when we were just boyfriend and girlfriend, we were just fiance, nobody cared, unless we were fighting and, somebody would slide into the DMs. You know what I mean? Other than that, even if we weren't fighting, like, hey man, he don't make as much as I do, or, on the flip side, be some pretty butts out there. I have to tell you, there has been some beautiful women trying to take my man. I have to say, and Josh would be like, hey, that chick over there, hey, I want to show you who's been trying to talk to me. I'd be like, okay, because listen, I appreciate a beautiful woman just like the next one. Okay, ain't nothing wrong with a woman with a pretty face, with some pretty tatas, with pretty buns, hind parts, looking good, got it going on, right? Fashion sense, snap, face beat to the guy, whatever she come to the table with. I appreciate it too. So he'd be like, hey, this is a hot chick trying to holler at me, come look at her. And we go look at her, I'd be like, ooh, she pretty, and then we just go about our business. We had a good time, she's a good look, but we go about our business. When you're married though, it just, instead of people looking at you like meat, they look at you like a factory. It's like, if I can just get your attention, I can make you poor. That's what the overarching theme felt like all the time with people. It's like, if I can get y'all two fighting, as long as y'all are fighting, I can capitalize. And as a wife, it's so easy to sit back and look at it because nobody's looking at me. Let's just be real. Like, in the marriage, it's always what the man did, it's always how the man failed. Nobody really cares about the man's side of the story as much as they care about the end result. So, and even when the end result is good, the world is still highly critical, right? So anyway, as I'm dealing with like the name change that goes over Josh's head, as I'm dealing with the job, the social interaction of people, the isolation. Oh my God, y'all. One of the main reasons why I do this is therapeutic. The isolation of being a black female wife, you know, and then there's a lot of other demographics about me that make me unique. I did not know that when people be like, "Oh, girl, I'm happy for you," that they not happy. I did not know that, and I used to think for the longest time, like people that knew me and Josh when we were dating, that they would be so happy to see our wedding day. Oh boy, did we get so many wild reactions. Like, even when it got closer to our wedding day, I would have like friends being like, are you sure you want to go through with this? And I'm like, what do you mean? I've been dating him for like years. And what if he cheats? What if he has a child outside of you? What if he, gets a gift that he can never give? That whole code for, VIH. I don't know if I'll get flagged if I say that backwards. What if this and that happened? And it's like, that's such a crazy thing to think about. Like, how do we go from me and him being tight for years? 2 years, not a long time, but you know, to we get married and now he becomes like, oh, he's gonna beat you up. I'm like, I would tell my friends and stuff. I was like, that's not a. I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, and even if it does, like the beautiful thing is it's between us two. And if it becomes a problem, then we can get help. We're rational, logical people. We've been rational and logical for 2.5 years. I think we'll be all right. Okay, same said people. After we got married, it was so shady. Those same people were like always trying to find opportunities to show me why he was no good. Those same people were always trying to find opportunities to show him why I'm no good. And I had to learn very early on that you cannot have anybody in your marriage. Anybody. I learned that first year of being married, it's like people leveraged the fact that we were married against us a lot. A lot of times people would try to tempt us to do things that they knew were unsavory just to be like, hey, if you want to take a break from monogamy, you can do this and that. And it's like, that's so wild. Like, oh, what if he's out doing this? And what if and it's like, why? Like, it just being married, it's like you shine a light on cockroaches. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I know a lot of people talk about how nobody sees you when you're single, but then when you get when you get into a relationship, all of a sudden everybody's calling you, everybody's texting you, everybody remembers you, everybody wants to, even people that you like before you got with the person that you locked down with, all of a sudden that person's interested in you. With being married, it's like that on steroids, especially for men. I have to say, like, I can't tell you, man, there was a lot of times when my husband would get like messages and people making passes at him and stuff. And he'd be like, hey, baby, look at this, look at my phone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then sometimes I would get stuff and I'd be like, hey, look, because there's nothing in, I don't think there's anything in our character that says, hey, I'm a 304. You know what I mean? Like, we are just so laid back. We're so laid back. So the first year I had to learn, you got to have a marriage between you and your spouse, and that's it. You can't have nobody else in your marriage. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. And I'm talking strictly United States now. I'll say this: there is polygamy in my family. Okay. Um, if we were in another country, I only believe in legal marriages. You got a lot of people that claim to exercise having multiple wives in the United States. It's not legal. It's not real. Stop. Cut it out. right? Now, other countries that do it is legal. Okay. And I have to say, that first year being married, I was like, I see why we need more than one. Like, because boy, I was like, maybe we do need to go overseas, and maybe we do need to get like another woman in the mix, because this is a lot of it. This is a lot of pressure, right? This is just me thinking. But then this is what I love about my husband. He was like, you thinking about the workload coming off of you. You not thinking about the fact that I'm gonna have to provide for both of y'all. I'm gonna have to protect both of y'all. I'm gonna have to deal with the mood swings of both of y'all. And then when you go to have children, if both of y'all are having children at the same time, now she has to understand you're the first wife. So even if she has the first child, Ishmael and Isaac much, he just kind of brought that to my remembrance with Hagar and Sarah, right? He's like, yeah, we've read about it, so let's be smart about it, which I appreciate him for that. But it goes to show once again when I talked about the whole stability thing, like to have that consistent foundation is so important. Like I think women of Western culture, I think we are so missing it. We're so missing it. Men are so simple. They're so easy to deal with. They're so easy to deal with. And I think the problem in Western culture is that women put so much pressure on other women to where it makes us feel like we have to do so much more than what a man cares about. I'll give an example. Oftentimes I get a troll. When I go live, I get a troll. It's always a mean person calling me a dude or whatever. Always mean person. And I never trip over that because I am everything to my husband. I'm pretty sure there are people that trash my husband on the street that make him feel bad and stuff about it. I hardly ever hear about it. You know why? Because at the end of the day, he's the center of my universe. So as far as everybody else's opinion and stuff of us, we make decisions together. Even me going on this live, even me having this channel, like it's all ran through him. His channel, it's run through me. Like we both work in tandem. So then again, having that stability of each other and then being again backed by the state, that allows us to wield a lot of power, even when we get into like legal matters. Like, oh my God, and I'm not gonna get into. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make this story politically correct, right? But I I had an issue with a family member, and it could have easily gone south when it goes to laws and allegations and things like that, family law stuff. And when I was single, the way that officials were handling me in this particular case was like my reputation of being a veteran, my reputation of being a truck driver. There's so many things that can be said negatively about a person with that background. Just for starters, as a veteran, immediately people think PTSD. So if anybody makes an allegation against me, that I've done something, off or whatever, and she probably did that. She probably got into that confrontation because she got PTSD. She was in the military and da 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 da. It's easy for people to do that. Me being a truck driver, the reputation of the average truck driver, like I said before, one of the reasons why I never really got in trouble on the road is because I never had an issue with passing a drug screen. Most truck drivers can't say that, right? They got a schedule. They P-test, right? So anyway, when some allegations came up, there was one way I was being looked at as an individual. But when I got married, it was like, wait a minute, this is somebody's wife. You know what I mean? Like, which is here's a little tip for young people and people that's trying to figure out where they want to go in life. If you know you are around people who are not in a good crowd, if you know for a fact what these people are doing is wrong or is bad, stay away. Just remove yourself. Don't think about, oh, that person doesn't have anybody. Let me tell you something. That person got all the people that they want to have. You're just lunch. They have dug themselves in a hole that they want to be in, and they love that hole. They love it. It's kind of like having a house with no decorations. They are in that house. You are a decoration. You're that plasma TV until they can get a bigger one, which is a younger, more naive you. When I came out of the military, I stepped straight in poop. Like I was hanging out. Like you would think hanging out with your friends from high school that you've known since like middle school would not be a big deal. But when people make certain decisions in life, it can really get you in trouble. So I'm just trying to be as vague as possible, right? Out of respect of the fact that I never really had time to curate how I wanted to share that. But it goes to show, again, the fact that I was married, it allowed for me to be protected in a way that I was not protected when I was single. So instead of people just looking at me or the law looking at me or whatever, they had to also consider my spouse, which my husband had a very good reputation. And this is another thing, too. I understand why people have their side piece or their forever fiance. I get it. I get it. Like, I understand why people get with people and they'll have kids with them, they'll live with them, but they will never marry them. Never. I get it because once you get married, everything about that person, you're now woven into that. There is no more separate. There is no more, oh, yeah, he might go and gamble, but I don't gamble. I don't do none of that stuff. Or, oh, yeah, she might do drugs, but, he's clean as a whistle. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Whoever you marry, and this is why it's so important to take your time. Take your time. Just everybody's in such a rush. Everybody is so, what's the word? They're in such a hurry to belong to somebody. Listen, take your time. Take your time. Because once you get married, it's all clasped. It's you're in there, right? Yeah, I'm on borrowed time. I'm making sure usually my daughter get up and she wild out. So I'm just trying to I appreciate y'all hanging with me. But anyway, okay, she just turned over. Anyway, so okay, cool. I got into some trouble after I got out of the military. It was ongoing. It wasn't really me in trouble. It was just somebody I was affiliated with. Few somebody's I was affiliated with. Once I got married, immediately everybody started looking and pulling records on my husband and stuff like that. And all you ever find about him is that man, he work, he go home. No nonsense. Um, he did have an ex who was problematic, but she's an ex. She done. She's on the ruin somebody else's life. Last I heard. So cool. Took me right off the hook, and it made me think: what if I would have married somebody that was messier than my friends? But that's a whole other thing. Hypotheticals are those, just hypotheticals. And so, like I said, even dealing with that issue, it's like he got caught up in mess just by having his name tied to me. And then now my name got to be changed to his. And now everywhere I go, everything that he's done, like even some of his dirt, and I'm down here in the South, I'm in North Carolina. When people hear my last name down here in Charlotte, they be like, oh, they ask, how you spell your last name, and because there are two Vales, big time Vales in Charlotte area, You know, well, one is big time, one is small time, and I'm the small time. And I'm, you know, my maiden, I'm a Haley. Haley, a big name in Charlotte. Big, big, gold, beautiful house, big, big, big name. So it's like, who married the Haley girl? That's number one. And then people assume that I'm married to the other veil. I'm not married to that. I'm married to not the big veil. I'm married to the little veil. And then they go, "Oh, okay, that sounds like, you know." Cause see, my grandma, she was big time. Well, both my grandmas are some OGs. Like they big in the underground, but they're not big when it comes to like college and stuff like that. So like, as I'm talking, I'm realizing like my grandma's kind of the same kind of the same caliber as my husband. I was like, wow, I just went full circle. Because both of my granddaddies, they were like, you know, big deal, big name. They had their churches, whatever, holier than thou's. Both of my grandmas, they'll break a beer bottle. They, they don't care. They'll play no games. Like, I love my grandmas, man. I look up to them. They my heroes. Watching my kids. Okay, but anyway, I'm always veering on. Coming back. Golly, I went back small time. This is what I like. Let's not. We'll probably do small time another time. Anyway, reputation year one, year two. Why y'all ain't got no kids? Y'all done got married. Y'all say y'all wasn't gonna have no kids till you get married. 2 years. It don't take 2 years to make no baby. Like what's happening? Year three, we got the baby. What happened? I had to quit my job, man. I couldn't do my job. No, I'm big, pregnant, tired, ankle swollen, back hurt, neck hurt, agitated. Oh my God, the mental strain. When I see girls out here on TikTok acting crazy with different color hair and stuff, I don't trip. You know why I don't trip? Because I went through my pregnancy when I was 29 going on 30. I had all my sense. When I tell y'all, like, I was in the Air Force, I flew planes. Like, I'm pretty smart. You know, I'm good. When I tell y'all I couldn't count, I had a hard time with my days of the week. There are these things called what they call it. It's like this brain fog. It's like pregnancy brain. It's like when a woman's like, you know, when I have to say this, like people who are like from the Middle East and all this good stuff, and they be like, you know, women are dumb and all that. There's some truth to it. No offense, but I'm just telling you, like having a baby, it just reroutes everything in your head. It's so hard to be organized. I have a calendar here where you can erase. It's like a dry erase calendar. When I tell you, I kept putting on that calendar that the month was like, I think it was June. Every month was June. It was like January, June, February, June, March, June, April, June. Everything was June all the time. The month was always June. It was December. Yo, I thought I was in the year June 2019. Man, when I tell you being pregnant gives you this crazy brain fog. Brain fog. You forget things. And when I tell you, I say all the time, I was sharp. I was sharp. I was sharp as a whip. Get pregnant. Gone. Okay, cool. That's me at 29 with my own house, with my own car, with my own marriage, with my stuff in order, beautiful bank account. Even during the pandemic, my husband and I, we were making money. We were cleaning bank. You mean truck drivers with no traffic? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I mean, we was killing it. And then when you take that and compare that to, I might go dark, teenager. A teenager. Imagining a person who's underage and having a baby. Yo, like I have a certain level of respect for people, for women, for young women who had children young. In my 20s, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine like your ankles, your wrists getting swole. No matter how much you sleep, you're tired. No matter how much you eat, you hungry. And then your child's father just walking around, just walking around, just free as a beast. Just, he just, oh my God. And then especially if he ain't taking care of you, listen, I'm gonna tell women this too. This whole idea you don't need no man to take care of you, yes you do. If you are heterosexual, you need a man to take care of you. Let me tell you why. I went through morning sickness, and don't let the name fool you. Morning sickness that can last all day, all night, all week long. That can last and last and last for your ass. Sorry for the cussing, but it can last into the past. It lasts. I went through morning sickness for like 2 weeks straight, and I had the type of morning sickness. This is what my son. I had the type of morning sickness where I felt nauseous, but it'll never come. I dry heave, I dry heave, but it'll never come up. And it was so awful. It was just dreadful. And I was so glad that I quit my job at this point because I would just be in bed and I'd just be tired. And, Josh, he would call me, he'll text me throughout the day. Hey, I think I'm about to, truck driving, the hours are volatile. Sometimes you get off early, sometimes you get off late. You just never know. It's all based off what the freight does. Whatever. Cool. I just was not feeling good. And I just did not like him. It's like, just bring me some food. Don't even look at me, right? I was just so confrontational all the time. I remember that. And one day I just decided to ask him, like, why am I so sick? And every day this man came in the house, and this was the weirdest thing. He had blueberries. He was always eating blueberries. I was like, why am I feeling sick all the time? And he was like, oh, because you probably need some blueberries. It was like, it was crazy because here it was, let me do the math. 5 years I've known this man. And he would eat a bowl of blueberries every now and then. And I never really picked up on that. Eat a bowl of blueberries. I was like, yeah. I'm more of a gourd type. I like melons. I like cucumbers, zucchini, squash. I don't even like squash no more. That's another story. But I ate one bowl of blueberries and when I tell y'all, I've gone to multiple doctor's appointments because I was trying to figure out what in the world was wrong with me. Is the baby okay? The baby's fine. Everything was fine. A bowl of blueberries, headache gone, stomach ache gone, weakness gone, just done. I did not know that my husband went through that. By the way, that was my arm. Sometimes I pop my arm and it gets a little weird. But anyway, if you guys heard that, it sounded gross. Anyway, yeah, blueberries. And this is why I be telling women, like, if you're gonna have kids with a man, please be married before you do it. Please, I'm begging. I'm begging you for the men. Please don't pick a woman that's difficult while you're dating her. If you can't have any peace while you're dating, don't marry her. Please, I'm begging you. I don't care how much time you put into it. I don't care. I'm telling you this 5 years in. I don't care. There's nothing worse than not having peace and knowing that the marathon doesn't have a finish line unless you file for divorce, which is expensive and messy. Don't do it, please. Men, make sure you got peace. Women, make sure he got sense. Make sure he got sense. Because especially if you want to have kids with your husband, when you get pregnant, like nobody talks about that. You know what? I have a theory. I don't think that it's about a woman's physique that people need to worry about when it comes to marriage. I think they need to worry about a woman's mental health. I can't believe I'm saying this, but a woman's mind, because when we go through so much stress that nobody talks about, nobody's interested in, because it's not sexy, it's not marketable, it's not attractive, it's not easy to package. The only thing that people think of when a woman is pregnant is what medications they can sell her. And not only what medications, but hopefully those medications will create complications for you and your child, particularly your child. If we can have your child sick for the rest of your life, that would be great. Because from the time that your child is born, we got a customer. That's that's basically what it was. Like pregnancy number one, it was like they were constantly prescribing medications. I would read about these medications and I'm like, this is terrible. You know, they would talk to me about, if I was sure about keeping the child or whatever. And I was like, what in the world? Like, and then I don't know, I just made this assumption. Since I'm married, well, duh, I want to keep my child. That's what I assumed. Like, and that maybe I'm out of the loop. But then it was like, on top of that, the medications I was being prescribed, the symptoms I had while I was pregnant, like my chronic morning sickness when I had the blueberry situation. Um, I'm like, that's just a matter of just dietary. Like I know what I food aversions. Let me dive into that. I am very picky about my food. I'm so picky that I cook a lot of my meals. The majority of my meals, I cook them. I cook all the time. I love cooking, right? So when I tell you the things that I like to eat and the things that I like to cook, I did not like them at all. Like I started baking more when I was pregnant. I started making my own breads and stuff at home. I'm like this today. Like I don't even feel comfortable eating pizza when I'm out. I make my own pizzas at home. Um, and then that's just I used to be big on like veggies, like stir fries and stuff like that. I used to be big, like I don't even like I make curry chicken and stuff, but sometimes I don't even like it. Turmeric. Oh, so when I was pregnant with my daughter, she could not stand turmeric. Could not stand it. Um, and now that she's born, that's all she wants. Curry this, curry that, and it's like she want turmeric in this, she want turmeric in that. I'm like, and to this day, I still feel that way. I still like before she was born, I could eat curry every day. I could cook curry every day, right? No problem. Cardamom. I love cumin. I love all that stuff. Garam masala. I love any kind of masala. Now, mm-mm, I can't stand it. Can't stand it. I'm more of you know what? I like Latin food. I like Latin food. Like it can't be Mexican. I know that sounds contradictory, and I know that kind of sounds racist if you isolate it. But I like Latin dishes. But that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, I was trying to lean on this point of how vulnerable a woman is. I didn't realize how vulnerable I was going to be. I didn't realize how vulnerable I was at the time. Even my diet, like I relied on my husband to tell me what to eat because his son is so much like him that there would be foods that I liked that my husband didn't like. And if I ate those foods while I was pregnant, I got so sick. But at the same time, my husband is the type of man who he appreciates things. So as long as it's not unhealthy. So like, let's say if I don't much know anything he doesn't like to eat now that I think about it. But let's say if he doesn't like fish, just throwing that out there. He doesn't like fish, but you made him some fish, or we went to a seafood restaurant and it was healthy, it was clean, it's good, it's kosher, it doesn't violate any dietary laws or anything like that. He'll eat it and he'll appreciate it. Like, or if he doesn't like squash, he'll eat it if it's cooked properly and stuff, and it tastes good. He might not like it, but he'll take it anyway. His son is the same exact way. But the problem with that is I'm dramatic. So when I started liking the same things that my son was liking, when he eats something that he doesn't particularly like, what was it that he didn't like? He didn't like chicken. When I was pregnant with him, I didn't like chicken. God, I'm like that now. I just thought about that. He only liked chicken with it had to be a bone in it. Like he only eat like it had to be a drum. He did not do chicken thighs at all. When I was pregnant with him, he didn't do chicken thighs at all. Um, Wings, drums. Not really chicken breast. Not no. Um, Wings, drums, and that's it. Flats, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right with that. Anyway, I eat chicken breast sick, just not feeling good. I eat chicken thighs, not feeling good. My husband, when I cook it, he eats it, but he'd be like, "Yeah, I don't really like that cut either." So I had to. You would think 4 years knowing this man, I would know he does not like these cuts. It's so much that you miss. Daughter's this close to waking up, y'all. I'm trying to hang out with y'all, but as long as I can till you wake up. This is the longest she ever sleep. My baby is weaning. My daughter is weaning, and it is affecting me emotionally. Like on one hand, my kids, my daughter, she's breastfed or whatever, both my kids, and they get to that age where you're like, oh my god, get off of me, right? And then when they finally do, it's like she's going off to college, like she's good. But anyway, this is like the longest she ever slept. It's been over an hour. Hey, shout out to y'all, anybody who's been in here for a while. But yeah, so I'm trying to do this as much as I can. I might see if I can break a record here because y'all know I can talk. And I appreciate anybody that hang out in here because I can talk. And when it comes to this marriage, I can talk about this all day because there was so much that nobody told me. I wish somebody would have told me this. People, man, okay, let me hurry up and try to say this as much as I can. So, pregnancy thing. Okay, I learned about how my husband's eating habits are. I learned how nice of a person he is. I learned that he will eat foods that he doesn't even like just to keep the peace. I don't know. And I had to tell him, I was like, listen, if you don't like chicken thighs, we don't have to get chicken thighs. Like, if you don't like certain foods, don't eat that. Like, I won't cook that. We won't go out to eat. Oh, well, I just want you to be happy. And that's another thing I have to say. What a lot of women these days are missing is that when a man is serious about you, he wants you to be happy. He wants you to be happy. He wants to do things that make you happy. That's what he wants to do. And I don't know why these days that's not what is it? I guess champion. Why that's not looked at more than anything. You know what I mean? Like it feels like women these days are looking at what a man can do for them and not about where a man's heart is. And I might just be missing it, but I'm like, what more can you want? For me, to hear a person says, all I care about is you being happy, even if that means me doing something that I don't want to do, especially a man saying that, I don't know what else you could want. And at that point, it just felt like it made me realize, now, mind you, we've been together 4 years. And I did not know that this man didn't like certain foods. And he just been taking me out to eat, taking me to restaurants he didn't particularly like for years. Never complained, never gave a hint or a gesture. Just, oh yeah, you want to go there again? Okay, cool. And it took for me to get pregnant with our son to realize you hate this. You're like, yeah, oh yeah, I absolutely hate that restaurant. We every week I get paid and I'll be like, I'm gonna take you there because that's what you like. And I'm like, ugh. So I learned a little bit about my husband's eating habits. That was nice. Um, and it goes back to my point again. When I told women to make sure you got a man with some sense, you know, I know there's this thing where women like the bad guy or the adventure. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the appeal is of being with the one that you know you know that's a bad road to be on, but you're gonna be with that person anyway. I don't know I don't like instability. I don't like danger. So I don't know what the appeal of being with a guy who is maybe they say all the right things. I don't know. But as far as bills in life, in reality, in lifing, especially when you think about children being involved, I can't stress this enough to women. Like, if a man is not willing to make sacrifices for you, don't keep dealing. I don't do it. Drop it. Let it go. If you feel like you have to save him or you feel like you got to take care of him, don't. He's gonna be all right. He's gonna be all right. You know what's gonna happen? This is what I've seen. I'm only 33, but this is what I've seen. That guy that goes, "Oh, if you leave me, ain't nobody gonna ever be there for me." Um, I've even had my day of that, dealing with that. It's just somebody who's afraid to grow up. It's okay. You know, with women, we're really forced to grow up because we have a menstrual cycle. Like, we're forced to grow up because we deal with dudes trying to holler at us all the time. We deal with dudes talking down to us, dudes cussing us out if we reject them, dudes calling us ugly or slow or whatever. We deal with all kinds of crazy stuff. Um, all kinds of wild stuff. Guys, from what I've seen, it's like the world doesn't care what guys are going through. Nobody cares, you know, and guys are always expected to perform or lose. You're either going to be a winner or you're going to be a loser as a man. You're either going to be successful or you're going to be unsuccessful. You're either going to be good or you're going to be worthless. There's no middle ground. The only way I've seen a man get any kind of security or relief is through a woman. And a lot of times women give these type of men who don't want to grow up, who don't want to have responsibilities, who don't want to deal with rejection, give them an oasis of some sort, a comfort that enabled them to continue to be enabled. And a lot of times these guys, it start out not meaning no harm, but later on it becomes a problem. Why does it become a problem? Because if a woman keeps coddling a man, especially in a relationship format, in a relationship dynamic, eventually that woman's not going to be able to be nurtured anymore because she's so busy nurturing this grown child. And then what's so sad about it is women are always given a microphone and they get to talk about how this man wasn't worth a hill of beans. And I would argue it wasn't him, it was you. And I know that's cold, but this is what I mean. Women, we know when we got a good one and we know when we got a bad one. And a lot of times we get these soft ones and we think they're going to harden. We can mold them into something that we want or something that's desirable. But the reality is, what he is right now and what he's on his way of being most likely will not be your cup of tea. He won't. He just hasn't figured that out yet. And then when he does get to a point where he's getting to be what he wants to be if he does grow up, then there's this level of like resentment because he's kind of grown out of that shell. He got to grow up a little bit over the years, right? So That's just my little spill on that. Um, Men are always dealing with the pressure of the world, and women should not try to alleviate that pressure. If I could put that into one little thing, because a lot of times women are like the shock absorbers of weak men. Like they take all the damage that mm, sorry, they take all the damage that man should be taking. They take on so much. Like women who work and provide for men, they deal with the pressure of paying the bills and everything else, and then at the same time have to be delicate with that guy's ego. That is not the function of a woman. A woman should not be doing all that. That is not what we're designed for. And at the same time, we can't keep getting mad and bad mouthing all men because we coddled a weak one. And now we get to say, based off of my experience with this one, all of them is this. Because they're not. The majority of them are not that. Man, that's such a heavy statement. I say majority. Yeah, I'm biased. I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm biased. I grew up around, like, I had a lot of male cousins, I had a lot of brothers. I've seen this stuff behind the scenes. I've seen it. I've seen where guys really did not mean any harm, but over the years, dealing with this woman, having kids with a woman, it just wasn't a thing to do. And then when they move on and they get somebody they really want to be with, that they're really happy with, that she don't have to tell him to get up and get a job. She don't have to tell him remember the anniversary. Boy, is it such a sad day for that woman that was like, I've been by his side when he didn't have nothing. You gotta be by your own side, ladies. You gotta be real with you. And I'm gonna tell you another hack about marriage too. Something that I realized. A healthy marriage is a marriage where you're always self-evaluating and you're always evaluating each other. A lot of times when my husband and I, when we deal with criticisms, we think about what other people out in the world has said to us. Like sometimes my husband will hear criticism at work and he'll hear this criticism for months. And he'll come home and he'll be like, hey, man, my boss has said this about me like 4 times. It's been 6 months and I heard this 4 times. What you think about it? And we'll talk about it. And I think that's another reason why married people kind of get the leg up on single people in the workplace. Because a lot of times single people don't have that soundboard, right? I'll give an example. Is that pepper closed? Yeah, it's closed. It's just a different type of container. I hate when I buy stuff and they change the packaging and I can't eyeball it and see what's going on with it. It's just a design. Sorry. Looking at my ingredients over there. Anyway, for my husband, and I hope he doesn't get mad at me for sharing this, but his boss was like always like coming to him with problems on the job. And sometimes my husband would be so busy working, he'll be like, listen, let me just focus on doing my job and all the other stuff, you got going on. I don't want to get overwhelmed with my job. And his boss started getting kind of critical of him and being like, hey, well, now you're just choosing not to be the go-to guy. Like you're inconsistent with your advice. And words like inconsistent, my husband is a very consistent person. So as you could imagine, that kind of bothered him, you know. Like, what you mean I'm inconsistent? Like, because, inconsistent sounds like you're late, you're unorganized, you don't manage your time wisely. Like these types of thoughts was like swimming around in his mind. And I was able to pick up on it. Sometimes when he come home, when he have home time or we'll be out as a family and he'll just be in deep thought. And I'll be like, what are you thinking about? Oh, nothing. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Typical old nothing. But he finally was able to put it in words. And then I was able to tell him, like, yeah, you are. And at first, it kind of bothered him. But then he sat back and he thought about it and he was like, yeah, just explain further. And I was like, yeah, you don't mean to, but you try to help everybody all the time. And he's like, yeah, well, what's the problem with that? Like, everybody needs help. Like, if I can help somebody, I was like, but see, here's the deal. When you can't help to people that you've been helping, it seems like you're wishy washy. Sometimes you're here for them and sometimes you're not. So you're inconsistent. And he's like, I never thought about that. He was like, but what about me just pouring into people as much as I can when I got it? And I told him, I said, on the other end, you pour so much into people that they don't realize that you can run out. You're putting so much into the relationship that people start to think that you're kind of made to do this. They kind of take you for granted. And he thought about it and he processed it. And he went back to work and talked to his boss about it. And they've been cool. Now, if you could imagine if he never had that, or let's say when you're doing something the best way you possibly can, and somebody tell you, hey, what you're doing ain't good enough because you don't do it enough. Like, it'll make you want to punch a hole in the wall, right? But it's good to be able to talk to somebody that's got your best interest to where they can see other people's point of view and help you understand how to navigate with what you're doing. This goes back to my point earlier. You gotta be selective. And it goes back to my point of how women coddle these men and then get mad when, they didn't get what they wanted or needed eventually out of the relationship. There are a lot of, I would say there are a lot of guys out there that lean on their women a lot. And sometimes the best thing to do as a woman is to move and let that dude fall. And he may not be for you. Men are so ready made, it's not even funny. Like, there's a man out there that already got it. He already cares. I know the internet says, oh, you need to do this and you need to have that and you need to be like this and that. In a real world, a man knows. And men, we don't give men enough credit. We don't give men enough credit. Like, he knows who he wants to marry. He knows who he want to be with. And for a lot of these guys, like the codependent types, there's so many of them. The 50-50 type, there's so many of them out there. Codependency does not create a functional relationship. It just does not. It's not healthy. And it's so sad because women, we are naturally nurturers. We naturally want to be able to pour in to people, and we're natural servants. We naturally, but I can't tell you how healthy I am being home, taking care of the kids, taking care of my husband, balancing the books, managing the finances, dealing with the stresses of his day. Like, when he talks to me, dealing with the stresses of being on these lives. Like, sometimes I get people that come in and there's a back and forth, there's a dialogue. It feels good for me to be able to, talk to people on these lives. I cannot believe my daughter has been asleep for an hour and a half straight at night. This is blowing my mind. And I'm having such a good time. But, even when trolls come in and act a fool, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm a wife. This is what I do. This is what I do. I deal with the bad kids, I deal with the good kids, and I deal with the adults. Like, this is my job. There was a time when I was younger. Is that him? When I was younger, I lived in a neighborhood where there were husbands and wives. It was so funny. Usually my daughter is the one that's wilding out, the 1-year-old jumping around and stuff. Tonight, it's my 2-year-old. It's like they switched. It's like he's the whining one. And now she's the more reserved. He's such a big baby. But anyway, I grew up in a neighborhood, and I talk about this from time to time. It was a lot of married people in the neighborhood. My parents were married. My father was divorced. My mother was with her boyfriend, who's legally her boyfriend, but they were monogamous. It was just them two. And, basically I call him my stepdad, whatever. Cool. But everybody knew each house by the head of the household. The head of the household was, of course, the man of the house, the husband of the house, right? So you have like the Johnson house, the Badum house, the Davis house, the Brown house. That's how it was. Cool. The men were the breadwinners. Women, of course, some of them had jobs, some of them worked part time, and then some of them were stay at home wives. I didn't grow up seeing women work to help provide for the house. I didn't grow up with that in this neighborhood starting out before my mom got incredibly ill, right? My mom, she's deceased too. But in my younger life, growing up in a neighborhood where there were family homes, where there were family houses, the women would sit on the porch a lot. And when you go walking through the neighborhood, there was always Mrs. So and so on the porch. You have Mrs. So and so who, she has a garden. You could go get food from her garden. You got my mom, she cooks all the time. You got, the other family down here, they're known for this. And it's like, this family over here, like her husband is a mechanic. If there's something wrong with your car, you go to her and say, hey, is your husband going to be available later? Because my car's making this clicking noise and I hope it's nothing serious. No problem. There was a community. I grew up in a Black community. It's not some old thing. I mean, I was at the tail end of it. This was in the 90s. Now in the 2000s, you go back to that neighborhood, boy, it's gentrified, it's burnt down, it's done. But anyway, sometimes I think there's one of the houses that we used to live in, we used to rent. Sometimes I think about buying that house because it has so many fond memories of my childhood. But excuse me, I'm saying all this, excuse me. I'm saying all this to say this. When I got married, I thought immediately that all of my peers and colleagues were going to get married too. A lot of the people that I knew, they they were dating for years. And some of them even had kids. So I just assumed, I was like, okay, if y'all were together 5 years before my husband and I got together, and then here it is, now we're getting married, y'all been together 8 years, then naturally, I mean, that's when I started learning about how marriage was not like a common thing for people. I started learning that marriage was not a typical thing for people. It wasn't like that natural succession in life. The way that I thought of marriage was, it's kind of like you go to kindergarten, you go to first grade, you finish elementary school, you go to, that natural progression in life. Graduate high school. Ideally, you go to college. If you don't go to college, you go into the military. If you don't do military, you do job corps. There's always something, or you get a job. You do something happens after. And I learned that um, to assume that people that put in years and years and years and years of being together, even having child after child, to assume that the natural progression would be, okay, y'all are going to get married eventually, right? And I learned the hard way. Sometimes that never happens. Sometimes that's never in the books. It's like, oh, I didn't know that though. And especially when people are struggling with the concept of marriage while in their long-term relationships. I was so green, and especially because of how I grew up, I was so green because I was like, okay. In the Black community, we always talk about how things used to be. And some of us, like, I'm one of those few people that got to grow up with, you know, here's the funny thing. Here's something that I'm kind of dealing with right now. I'm wrestling with it. You'll have Germantown, you'll have Chinatown, you'll have, little Jamaica. You have all these small communities. And in the United States of America, you can do your thing. You can build a community. Like even in Charlotte, there are little. I mean, there we really got a town called Indian Land. There are people from India that buy up whole suburbs. And they move their folks in and all that good stuff. And sometimes I think about Black people here in this country, and I'm like, I remember when we had, Black neighborhoods and stuff, much like everybody else do, right? They have their own subdivisions and things like that. And it's so sad because even sometimes when I talk about this on my lives, I get criticized a lot. Oh, you're talking about, you're being racist. It's like, no, I'm just remembering when I could listen to music in the street and I could relate to it. Or I could go to somebody's house and I pretty much know what they're cooking, or you know what I mean? Or when there's a cookout, you know, that's next door, let's go to a cookout, you know what I mean? And I'm sure other cultures have their things too. They have their holidays, they have their traditions and things like that. And I just assumed that since I grew up around people who remember the neighborhood that I was talking about, that we would replace that neighborhood. You know, the people who passed away, the people who their homes, were passed down, or like even if somebody goofed up the family wealth and they decided to sell grandma's house, and just cash out instead of taking care of the house or whatever, maybe one of us can buy it and then we could just keep it in the community and we can continue to grow that way. Or we could take that wealth and we can buy the block as they talk about. Things like that. And I just thought no better way to stick your flag in the dirt than say, we're the Vale House. And then them over there, they're the Jackson House. And them over there, they're the Brown House. Like how it used to be. We were house of fill in the name. And now it's like, dang, I'm the only, like, I have a cousin who's married. She's been married, dang, I think 17 years. I think she just celebrated 17 years, which is amazing. And then, we talk to each other. We call each other queens because she is the mother of her generations, just as I'm the mother of my generations. Like in the Black community, we have like big mamas, you know. How to put this? I done came over here. My generation is the first to have a matron instead of a patron. This is what I mean. Before me, there was my dad, there was my grandpa. I come from a long line of men. I'm the first woman. So then, I did have a brother. He passed away. Jesus, this sounds depressing when I talk about it. He passed away. So he would have been the next progenitor and the line would have went that way. But I'm the first girl, so you still count me, right? Okay, cool. I get married. Now my line is over to my husband's line. And I'm the first mother of that generation. And then of course I got my daughter. She'll be like, after I pass, she's gonna be the second. And if she has a daughter, she's gonna be a third. Much like, I hate to put it this way, but like the Queen of England, she's the second Elizabeth. There was already a first Elizabeth, which this was just unprecedented. The fact that she was a second Elizabeth, because we usually look at sons as like juniors or thirds or seconds and things like that. So that's a whole other conversation there. But with me, I just felt like, so take for example, if I had a big sister, she's big sis, she's big mom, you know what I mean? But since I'm the oldest girl, I'm big mom. Like I'm so like my little sister's kids, you know, they look at their mom, then they look at me. So it's like I'm your mom's big sister. So when you want to tell on your mama, and my grandma, you know, I'm your grandma who was my mother, she's deceased. Now I'm filling them shoes. Like my family's very structured, right? And so cool. Um, in this structure of marriage and family, I just thought it would just happen. I just thought it, which is so funny because going back to the progression of going to school, you know, getting a degree and all this, like how people expect to be regarded when they graduate high school or when they go to college, when they get a bachelor's degree, a master's, a PhD, or if you know, progress the ranks in the armed services, or if you become a police officer, you progress ranks that way. There are certain ways you expect for people to regard you, right? It's not the same in marriage. Marriage is literally what you make it. And it is constantly being under scrutiny. It is constantly being under what's the word? What's that word? Magnifying glass. There it is. It is constantly being under a magnifying glass. And as I progress in this marriage, every year is like heavy rain. It's just, it gets heavier and heavier. And then now that we have children, it's like even more scrutiny. Like child number one, like, oh, you better watch it. Child number two, oh, that's a girl. Right? You definitely better watch it. And it becomes more and more pressure. And it also makes me realize why so many people quit. Now, it's a lot. It's a lot. And in my opinion, being in a relationship is so much easier. It's not what I prefer, but I understand like that first 6 months, like, ooh, like, especially as a woman, so much of your life changes. So many of your networks changes. So many, especially as the woman, because now you start realizing how much you got to cater and how much you have to serve. And it makes you start questioning every, I don't want to say demagogue, I don't want to use that word, every single power in your life. Ooh, he is frolicking. My son jumping around. I don't know if he's having a nightmare. Might need to check on him. Hope he's okay. He hasn't whimpered. I guess he's trying to get comfortable. I'm gonna have to get in there and get them in a minute. But I mean, he's asleep. But you know, I'm the type, I'll stop this live if he's having a nightmare because it's the worst. But anyway, as a woman, you gotta figure out what's important, who's important, and you have to be consistent. You gotta pick your husband. You gotta pick him, even when you don't like him. You gotta pick him. When you don't agree, you gotta pick him. Right, wrong, indifferent. I know that sounds crazy, but that whole vow forsaking all others. Ooh, there has been times when he has done things that I did not like at all. And the person that he offended, I would be like, yo, I can't believe you are making me pick a side with this, knowing that I don't like your position. But that vow of forsaking all others, you gotta do it. It's a duty, it's a responsibility. It really is. It's a lot of weight. Most people can't handle it. It's not for everybody. It's not. It's it's not. And it's not something that you can kind of rig. It's not something that you can kind of, what's the word? You can't play around with it. There's this trend going around that women who get divorced with children are not single mothers. See, marriage does not allow you to play deceptive games. It doesn't. Being in a relationship, you get to pick and choose. Are we open? Are we committed? Are we on? Are we off? You get to pick and choose, right? Can't do that with marriage. It either is or it is not. It's either good or it's bad. It's either up or it's down. And you have to be consistent. Now, it's easy for me to talk about what a woman is supposed to do because I am the woman in the marriage. But at the same time, I've also seen the flip side of the effect. I see this as women, we take the initial impact. We deal with a lot. We deal with a lot initially. But the long term and the lasting effects, that's what your husband got to deal with. A lot of the things that my husband and I deal with today has a lot to do with things that he did not listen to. He was not listening to me. I kept telling him, do this, don't do that, don't hang around with this person, don't do that. And he would just years and years, oh, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. I dismiss what I say. Oh boy. I might have gotten the initial disappointment of him not choosing me over other things and thinking about how I always put him first and it's not fair. Okay. But eventually it shows you up. Eventually it finds him out, and it finds him out in the worst way because people start asking, didn't your wife tell you? And that part, sticking around long enough for things to come back around, I ain't gonna lie, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. You don't, there's no better I told you so than the streets telling your husband, didn't your wife tell you better? Didn't she have more experience than you did in this? Wasn't she researching? I thought your wife went through this before. How did you end up doing that? And it's at a point where I've even learned not to like nag. I've learned not to get angry. There was a time I used to really throw some crazy tantrums. Like if he didn't do something that he was, and I'm a very cool headed person for the most part. But when it comes to money, like in truck driving, it's constantly you're moving money, you're taking contracts, you're moving, you're doing your thing. And time is of the essence. Monday through Friday, balls to the wall. It's just this market is moving. It slows down on Saturday and it comes to a screeching halt on Sunday. And all your statements come out. You get weekly statements, and you get to take that and decide what you're going to do with your next quarter and all these other things. And a lot of times my husband would try to use the power of his social networks to get by. So instead of just having the integrity of doing things right the first time, he'd be like, I spot such and such on it. They'll spot me on the next one, and they never spot him on the next one. A lot of times, and it's not just exclusive to my husband, a lot of men do that. A lot of men think, if I worked hard, if I did what I was supposed to do, then people will appreciate it. No, no. And a lot of times, if they didn't have a father to tell them that growing up, or they didn't have somebody in their corner telling them, hey, man, it's not people's job to appreciate you. That's your wife's job to appreciate you. Nobody else has to appreciate you, not even your own kids. If nobody tell them that, then they got to go and learn that on their own. I feel like a lot of times women get discouraged with that. Like, why do you have to wait for something to happen for you to realize that I'm telling you the truth? And then you're suffering real losses here. You're suffering consequences that you don't have to suffer if you would have just listened. I can't tell you how many times I've heard women say, oh, men, they just don't listen. They do what they want to do. That's a part of it. Boy, that's a part of being a man. Boy, they get so hard headed. It has to be something that gets them. And I know that's frustrating. But boy, I wish somebody would have told me this 5 years ago. Because I'm telling you, I used to get upset. Years 1 through 3 was me being like, what are you doing? You don't listen to nothing I say. You know, having baby number one calmed me down a lot because I realized I can only do so much. You either gonna listen to me or you not. But at the end of the day, this baby needs A, B, C, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like it never stops. So I'm going to focus on what I know I can change. Baby number two, my daughter was, woo, she's calming down a lot, but she gave me so much, I won't say grief, but work. She, whew, that whole pregnancy, like sleep, I could not sleep. That girl was always kicking. Man, she was always kicking. After I had her, she stayed up all night. And she's sleeping through the night. Hey, it's been a long time. And she's been sleeping through the night a lot. A lot. But then it's like when a man is out working and providing for his family, it's a lot of things that he missed. And it's so much that he's doing with work. And it's so much of focusing on providing that the little things like, I remember one time my husband went out to work and, he went out, he took like a contract that went like for 2 months. And our daughter, she was an infant and, she did a lot of kicking and stuff, very, very physically active when she was a little baby, always very strong. And she did not like being swaddled. It's not her thing. She'd kick out of the blanket all the time. She did not like that at all. And for some reason, only her dad can take that blanket and swaddle her, right? So my husband, he goes out for like 2.5 months. He comes back. Jazz, too big for them. She's not in them little blankets anymore. Like, she's big now. And he put her down and put her in a swaddle, like, which was crazy because she allowed him to do it. Even when she was a little baby, she didn't let nobody do it. But she was so big and her foot was hanging out the blanket and everything. But it just gave me a mental image of, men are going through something too. And I didn't see that before. When it was just me and him, even like before the kids, it's like you get to see another side of that person. When you have longevity, when you know that you're going to be with this person for the rest of your life, you're not really the relationship ending. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about taking care of your family. That is your focus. So you eliminate this idea of people moving on, or you eliminate this idea of somebody finding someone new or anything. That's so far removed from you. That's so far from you. To where you can examine that person because you know that this is who you're spending your life with. So when he put her in that swaddle, our daughter, she was too big for that blanket, but she chilled. It made me realize that men are not like women to where if I have not spent one day away from the kids, not 24 hours. I have not been 24 hours away from the kids ever. I can't imagine it. Like they've never been anywhere, spend a night or nothing like that. I'm just not comfortable with that, especially these days, especially the pandemic was crazy. It's a whole nother story. But, my husband, like, when he went on the road, went over the road, it was hard for him. It saddened him to not be home with the kids. And he would talk to me while he was on the road for like hours. Like, oh my God, it's been 2 days since I seen my kids. It's been, a week before I seen the kids. Oh my God, what are they doing? And I constantly, a lot of times when I upload these shorts of our kids, I upload these videos of our kids. Part of that is so that my husband can see them growing, see them like, see their plates, see what I'm cooking for them. They're eating more complex meals, more fruits and vegetables, like, So when he put our daughter in this blanket, it made me realize like it teaches you so much about the opposite gender, because it's so easy for me to think of it as, I stay home, I cook, clean, I keep the house in order, I keep the bills paid, I move the money where it needs to go. I handle the administrative stuff, I'm on top of it. I change the diapers, I put the kids in the bath. There's a long list of things to do as a homemaker. But as a man out there, like having worked the job that he worked, I understand the demand, you know. So constantly dealing with the law on one end and then dealing with, you know, maintenance with the truck on the other, and then dealing with the industry being oversaturated, then having a hard time getting loads. And then sometimes there's easy times getting loads, and then some places are closed for the holiday. So then you miss pay on that, so on and so forth. But while he's spending all that time on provisions and dealing with what the world got going on, his children are at home growing up. And this is why he's away from them, is so he can provide for them. And nobody appreciates that but me. Nobody sees that. So seeing him put his daughter in a blanket made me realize that as he's out there, his mind is on his family. And the little girl that he left to provide for, he's still taking care of that little girl. Like in his mind, that's still a newborn, still a little baby to him. And no matter how old she gets, that's still his baby. And it didn't really click. So this is what, year 4. And, year 3 was like the itch for us. It was like, oh yeah, I don't like him. But then it's like, you don't leave because you're mad, you know, you just don't. So I was mad, but I was here, I'm married. But year 4, I was able to see the humanity in that whole year. Year 4 was like, God, how selfish have I been? Like, how self-absorbed have I been? Like, how many times has my husband tried to talk to me and I just didn't listen? All the times that I complained about not being heard, it was easy to listen to him when I thought about the progress he was going to make. When I thought about the potential and the milestones he was reaching. He's come a long way since we first started dating. So have I. But more so, him, because there were a lot of goals that he had from day one, and he's exceeded those goals, even if he didn't reach those goals in a conventional way or in a way that we originally intended. And I don't know, year 4 just made me kind of sit down and be like, what have I been missing? Because I've been so busy looking at things my way. And the marriage has 2 people in it. And I've been kind of bullying my way through this relationship. And society will never antagonize me for it. And I know it. as a woman, I can be the toughest steak in the kitchen. Somebody always has A1 sauce, right? 4:57, whatever's your thing. I can't believe she still didn't get up yet. But anyway, she about to get up in a little bit, y'all. And I've been on here for 2 hours. And I appreciate people coming through. I appreciate people hanging out. But I have grown so much in these 5 years. Like, I'm so different now. And I'm so grateful. And now I am just focusing on being a better person. Just not just for myself, not just for my husband, not just for my kids, but in general. Just be better. Just do better. Think better. Eat better. Live better. Have a better attitude. That year 4, that was a turning point for me. Here it is going on year 5. For years, my husband has been like, you need to start a channel. You talk all the time. You need to start a channel. Just start a channel. Just try it. Yeah, I'm always on YouTube. I'm always watching YouTube, whatever. He's like, them people, they get on there and they talk. You get on there, you talk. You might have some people who listen. You might not have people that listen. But just try it. And it has been an outlet for me. It really has. And like I talked about with the Black neighborhood that I grew up in, where there were Black families, we may not have communities, because it's not just the Black community that's crumbled. It's communities everywhere. Everybody's in disarray. We're all trying to find our heads here. I believe that now everything has gone virtual. So even though I can't sit on my porch and have my sweet tea or my lemonade and watch kids walk up and down the street, make sure they're safe, make sure everybody's good, even though I can't go next door and borrow no sugar, ain't nobody doing that no more, but I can sit here on these internets and maybe I can network with other wives out there. And I used to feel like, hey, I need to network with Black wives. That barrier is gone for me. I'm looking for wives who want to be wives because it's very easy to find people who are married, but a lot of times the people I bump into want a divorce. Or even people who ain't wives, just people that, they want to hear a perspective other than, you need to be a high value man and you need to be a high value woman, just a regular person, just to be ordinary. Ain't nothing wrong with average. Ain't nothing. In my opinion, I feel like I'm just as plain Jane as I can be. Now, maybe I'll come on here and have some bells and whistles one day. But for the most part, man, I'm cool and I'm chilling. I've been hanging out with the kids all day. The weather was bad. I usually take them to a park or take a playground or some kind of venue, but the weather was so bad today. It was so up and down. So we just kind of stayed in. And this is kind of me. This is what I do. I kick back with my kiddos. As they get older, they'll do things differently. I'll do things differently, but it's just regular folks out here that's trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And yeah, I appreciate everybody who trickled in, hung out with me and everything. But I just wanted to kind of, chat about them 5 years, man. Half a decade. In 2 years, it'll be 10 years. I'll probably get on here and talk about them 10 years. But as always, I appreciate y'all. And I'll catch y'all on the next live. I'm going to go check on my babies. I think the big one might have had a nightmare, so I'm going to go check on him. Y'all have a good night.